Hello everyone, hope you're having a great week so far. Patch 9.0.5, has, depending on when you've watched the video, has either arrived or is going to be arriving within the next day or two here in World of Warcraft. So yeah, it's Monday, this is coming on Tuesday for the Americas, Wednesday for Europe. I figured I'd release this now, you can watch it now and get hyped up for the patch, or, because I suspect this is probably going to be very long, you could watch this video when you're doing your Torghast runs, I guess, during the week, you know, just something interesting, hopefully, to watch during that. We're going to read through the patch notes, though, and I'll give you my thoughts, and we will see. Here we go. Oh, and that's the day after EU, so it's Thursday for Asia. That's something I learned. I didn't even know that. But yeah, let's dive in, guys. Again, big focus on Covenant Legendary tuning, Valor points, and yeah, stuff like that. Let's go. First up, Adventures. Adventures, okay. For the Kyrians, the Kyrian Phalanx health has been increased by 16%. Phalanxes still feel underpowered relative to Halberdiers, so giving them some additional durability to allow them to fill the tank role before players have maxed out their roster. Interesting. I have no characters in Kyrian, so I can't comment on that one. Necrolord fixed an issue where Bonesmith Hairmere serrated shoulder blades weren't inflicting damage back to the enemy. Maldraxxus Plague Singer's Plague Song has been redesigned. Plague Song now deals damage to ranged enemies every round. Rensissa the Dynamo spell effectiveness increased by 40%. Woo! Okay. Assembler Zertora spell effectiveness increased by 10%. It's very small. You won't really notice that, I don't think. Rattlebag spell effectiveness increased by 20%. They fixed some issues where some Necrolord Covenant companions weren't dealing damage reliably. Additionally, a few companions have received an improvement that fits with their purpose. Cool. I mean, honestly, the Necrolord companions, from what I played with them, are very strong, and their basic troops even were very strong, so they're pretty solid. For the Night Fae, Kadaran spell effectiveness increased by 24%. What? I'm curious. There must be some specific number to exactly what Quadaran does. Why is it 24% instead of 25% or 20%? At least it's not 23%. At least that. Okay. Blitzwing's damage reduction now correctly applies to enemies. Euralia health increased by 16% and spell effectiveness by 50%. That's a big buff. Duskleaf health increased by 20% and spell effectiveness by 25%. Lothwellen health increased by 33% and ability damage increased by 25%. Wow. A few Night Fae Covenant companions were not as well established in their different roles as we hoped. To address this, we've improved many abilities, decreased some companions' overall fragility. Okay, cool. And then finally, for the Venthyr Nightblades have their attack increased by 25%. So if you guys didn't check, if you've been on a little bit of a break for the game, maybe you played for the first month and took a break, there were actually a lot of changes to Venthyr and Kyrian specifically with their adventurers. In one of the earlier patches, they buffed them a lot because Night Fae and Necrolord were doing well, but Kyrian and Venthyr were very, very weak. So they've already been buffed a lot, but hey, some more buffs here. Pretty cool. There we go. Okay, here's an interesting one. Undead cloaks will now be as tattered as the Forsaken wearing them. So that's cool. So I guess a little bit of a new graphic for undead wearing cloaks. Interesting. I wonder if that is just turned on for all undead, or if you can kind of toggle it, like you can toggle their bones, or like, they can have their bones covered or their bones showing, all that sort of stuff. It's interesting though. I think that's a cool thing. And more options like this. There was a lot, I don't know if you guys saw it, there was a lot of lashback because at BlizzCon, Blizzard said there's not going to be any more character customization in Shadowlands. They're literally not planning anything. So there's a big lashback. People said, but why stop? Guys, the character customization that you brought into Shadowlands was amazing. That's one of the best things about the expansion. It was so much fun logging in the pre-patch and doing all that stuff. Give us more. We want more. We're not going to say no to more character customization. So we'll see. Will Blizzard change their stance on that? I wonder. It seemed kind of genuine. But, I mean, the cynical part of me always wonders, like, is that a bait? They're like, of course we'll do character customization, but we'll tell them we won't, so then we backtrack on it and everyone's happy. That's the cynic in me. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think. Okay, let's get into some class changes then. First up, we do have some visual changes, which is nice. In Dungeons and Raids specifically. Dungeons and Raids. So Ashen Hollow for Venthyr Paladins, Abomination Limb for Necrolord DKs, Swarming Mist for Venthyr DKs, Death Stew for Nightfey DKs, you got a bit of a problem here, guys. Wild Spirits for Nightfey Hunter, and Resonating Arrow for Kyrian Hunter, and Ancient Aftershock for Nightfey Warriors. I didn't even know they existed. There you go. You learn something new every day. But all these are now less visually overwhelming, which is certainly good. I know definitely melee players can have a bit of a rough time amidst all of these Covenant effects going off. They can barely see the game sometimes, so that's good. Many abilities are now better at avoiding in-combat enemies that the player is not engaged with. Convoke the Spirits, Starfall, Chain Harvest, that's the Venthyr ability for Shaman, Fell Bombardment, and Divine Toll. I believe Fell Bombardment is... I believe that's a legendary for Demon Hunters? I think so. I find this funny because as far as I knew, they were not supposed to hit these anyway. So I like that it's not now that they work perfectly, but it's like they're better now. They're better. Little Jimmy, I know he's been bad at school, but I promise he'll be better now. It's like, okay, all right, I believe you. Death Knight, all right. Death Knight. Frost fixed an issue that caused Inexorable Assault to consume spell reflection. I'm not sure exactly what Inexorable Assault is off the top of my head at all. That's definitely sort of a PvP focused thing, spell reflection, of course. Unholy fixed an issue that caused Unholy Pact to sometimes not hit large raid bosses. Okay, so that is, I believe they're talking there about the laser beam, the flaming chain that connects you and your pet when he has Dark Transformation up, right? I think that's what that talent does. So I guess that it was just a bit awkward with raid boss size. Now it's going to be more consistent, so that's good. That would have been very annoying. Weird positioning stuff to make something work that really should. Good. Covenant abilities. Shackle the Unworthy for Kyrian. Damage increased by 15%. And the damage reduction debuff increased to 8%, up from 5%. So that's becoming a lot more powerful. So interesting there. Abomination Limb now correctly deals damage and pulls in enemies while the Death Knight is crowd controlled. So especially for PvP. Abomination Limb no longer pulls enemies that are in stealth. Okay. Oh, Lord. Right, that's a PvP change there. I didn't know that was a thing. And then here we go for Nightfey. Death's Due is being buffed. Damage reduction debuff and strength buff. Increased to 2% per stack, up from 1. And now stacks 4 times, was 8. So it will stack twice as fast, basically. So it gives you a lot more bang for your buck a lot faster. For Demon Hunters, Unbound Chaos. Damage has been increased to 500%, was 300%. This is, I think, whenever you Immolation Aura, your next Fell Rush, your movement ability, which does a bit of damage, will now do this massive extra chunk of damage instead. So kind of an AoE focused talent. That's a nice buff to that, be a lot more relevant. For the Covenant abilities, Elysian Decree, damage has been reduced by 10% for Vengeance Demon Hunters. Obviously, Elysian Decree, Kyrian, Vengeance Demon Hunters have been dominant in Mythic Plus in raiding for the whole expansion so far, really. So looking to reduce that a little bit. Fodder to the Flame for the Necrolords has been redesigned. Your damaging abilities have a chance to call forth a demon from the Theater of Pain for 25 seconds. Throw Glaive does lethal damage to the demon, which explodes on death, dealing damage to nearby enemies and healing you for 30% of your max health. The explosion does reduce damage beyond 5 targets. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It seems like a really fun thing for dungeons, especially. You can kind of even summon in the demon and have him hang out for, a few seconds there, no problem, and then choose exactly when to detonate for that AoE burst and that chunk of health. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if it will. I feel like Elysian Decree is a bit more easily usable, but this is much better and a lot more fun than the old version, which was where it would make this pool of blood that you had to stand in. And it's like, well, I'm the most mobile class in the game across Havoc and Vengeance, both super mobile, and I'm stuck standing in a pool of blood. That just sucks. So this is way, way better. The Hunt for Nightfey, the damage has been decreased by 10% for Vengeance, and Sinful Brand with the Venthyr, their damage has been decreased by 10% for Vengeance. So just basically all except Necrolord nerfed for Vengeance Demon Hunter. On top of that, Repeat Decree for the Kyrian. Base damage is now 15%, was 25%. That's where your Elysian Decree would trigger a second sigil, which is going to repeat the damage. It's now going to repeat a lot less damage, so that's a nerf to that. Double nerf to Kyrian. Fell Defender, a conduit, now affects Fell Devastation for Vengeance Demon Hunters with Fiery Brand. So this is, I think, a good change. Instead of this Fiery Brand build where you're getting crazy cooldown reduction on Fiery Brand, it's going to give you cooldown reduction on Fell Devastation, which is still very strong. That's still a powerful cooldown, but it does limit a bit some of those synergies. It does open up a few more synergies, though. I think it's actually, our Vengeance Demon Hunter, I think, is considering it to be a fairly good change overall. And then Demonic Parole will no longer engage creatures in combat when Imprison expires. I assume this is probably a conduit. Not entirely sure. And I guess the issue there is probably like in Mythic Plus, right? You imprison a mob to skip past it because you're not in combat with something when you imprison it. You can move past it and do a skip. That when the imprison expired, I guess it did put you in combat, so it ruined the skip. That's great that that's changed, because that's going to be pretty miserable, for your poor Mythic Plus pug. You're thinking, oh man, you've done your research as that Havoc Demon Hunter. You're like, yes, I got to imprison this mob. It's going to be great. Then you do it, and then the pack comes, and everyone rages at you. Druids then. Restoration. Rejuve. Periodic heal increased by 12%. And Wild Growth healing increased by 7%. So nice buffs to the Resto Druids. This is definitely going to help, I think, quite a bit in Mythic Plus. It's going to be pretty noticeable. I think even in raiding, it's certainly going to be noticeable for their healing. So this is a good chunk of their healing. It's going to be kind of nice. They're still not getting too much in terms of gigantic raid utility, right? They're not getting anything in terms of gigantic raid utility. So they're still weaker on that front. So I don't expect them to jump to the top of the pack. But in terms of their healing output, it will help them compete better. I think they do have some mana issues and stuff, so this might help a bit with that by being just a bit stronger in throughput. We'll see. For their Covenant abilities, Adaptive Swarm. The Necrolords, damage and healing increased by 25%, and the effectiveness of periodic effects increased to 25%. So those are up from 20%. And the effectiveness of periodic effects increased to 35% for Balanced Druids. So really trying to up this for Balanced Druids. It's a tough sell for Balance, I think, Adaptive Swarm, because Balance has the Venthyr Covenant ability, which is a big 3-minute steroid during their already existing 3-minute steroid with Celestial Alignment. And of course, Convoke the Spirits, right? Convoke the Spirits. Even the Kyrian one is really strong for Balanced Druids, where they do like the symbiotic link with someone every 1 minute. Really strong for balance for AoE damage in particular, I believe. So this is a tough sell. Again, they started doing this on the beta, and I think this is good to boost some Covenant abilities for certain specs to try to even out the Covenant balance. You don't want to have a Covenant ability or a Covenant that's really good for 2 specs out of 4 or 3, but bad for the other ones, and that puts you off choosing it. So yeah, good. Anyway, Endless Thirst for Venthyr now increases your critical strike chance by 0.8 per stack. At rank 1 was 0.5%. So again, a buff to the Venthyr there. For Hunters, we've got quite a few changes here. Fixed an issue allowed Hunters to avoid the Sata debuff when casting Primal Rage, so that's Bloodlust and the debuff. Fixed an issue that caused Feign Death to be cancelled when Hunters opened their map or used an emote. Interest. I mean, open it. I don't know. That makes sense to me, right? It's like, oh, I'm pretending to be dead. I'm dead. And then it's like, open up my map. Where are we going? I'm going over. That's kind of, or like whatever. You just choo. You start doing the train emote. It kind of makes sense. That doesn't seem like an issue. That makes complete sense. I don't know. Makes sense to me. Obviously, like gameplay of opening your map. Opening your map in like a dungeon when you're feigning death or something, that would be quite annoying. It's roleplay though, isn't that? People say that WoW's missing the roleplay. Come on, Blaze. Beast Mastery, Spinning Cobra, damage increased by 260%. Small buff there, small buff. That's insane. That could be kind of fun. I think that's every Cobra shot that you do during Bestial Wrath. I think it empowers this Spitting Cobra thing that you summon in. I think after Bestial, I can't remember the exact version that exists now. But yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a big buff. Maybe it'd be stronger. It's kind of fun to have this little Cobra shooting stuff. Marksmanship fixed an issue where casting volley right after an aim shot that benefited from trick shots would sometimes not apply the trick shot effect. Okay, great. Bug fix. Fixed an issue that caused steel trap for survival to be usable while aspect of the turtle was active. And then for Covenants, fixed an issue where resonating arrow could fail to be cast behind your character. Death Chakram, damage increased by 15%. That's a nice buff to Necrolord. I think that's quite a fun ability. Flayed Shot Venthyr, this has got a lot of buffs. Duration increased to 18 seconds, up from 14. Cost no focus, was 10. And Flayer's Mark also increases the damage of your next kill shot by 25%. So they buffed the crap out of Venthyr. This is possibly a very strong single target option now. Although, again, it doesn't give you any AoE damage, whereas Wild Spirits and the Resonating Arrow obviously do. So that's one of the big downsides there. Fix an issue that sometimes caused the Marksman Advantage buff to be removed after another player's Hunter's Mark was applied. I think that's a conduit. Yeah, it's a conduit that reduces the damage your Hunter's Mark target does to you. And then fix an issue that sometimes caused Brutile Projections to expire early. I have no clue what that is. Over for mages. Covenant abilities. Radiance Spark. Damage increased by 20% for the Kyrian. Deathborn for the Necrolord. Duration increased to 25, up from 20 seconds. And the spell power buff is 15%, up from 10. Personally, I don't like either of these personally. I know people did quite like Radiant Spark for Kyrian. But I don't know. I haven't been a fan of these two myself. Mirrors of Torment for the Venthyr. With Arcane will now give you a stack of clear casting when a mirror is consumed. It's previously mana. So this is, I think, a lot more fun. You know, clear casting is going to let you channel those arcane missiles. With Slipstream talented, you can move while you're casting that. So that's much, much better. It's really cool. And you can plan around it maybe. For Fire Blast cooldown reduction is going to be 6 seconds up from 4. So making that a lot more powerful too, to compete with just getting more combustions and more fire blasts and stuff with the Night Fae thing, actually shifting power, which gives them crazy cooldown reduction. So again, that's good, trying to even out the mage covenants, because basically all the mages right now are all Night Fae. For monks, Mistweaver Vivify now costs 3.8% mana, was 4.1, and Renewing Mist now costs 1.8% mana, was 2.2, so making the sort of more caster-based Mistweaver playstyle more mana efficient. Lots of changes here for Windwalkers, which I think is actually, I think some of these are supposed to affect their damage quite negatively. Let's take a look. So Zwen, the White Tiger, is now vulnerable to Hibernate, Polymorph, and Fear. And that's kind of big. Certainly, I mean, these are not AoE, right? Certainly do have AoE fears, though, so that's kind of big. That could make quite a difference. You know, like a priest doing an AoE fear in arena. That's going to make quite a big difference there. Touch of Death is now affected by Mastery combo strikes. Fixed an issue that caused Storm, Earth, and Fire's cast to sometimes break nearby enemies' stealth. Fixed an issue that caused Zwen the White Tiger to be able to target enemies in stealth. Fixed an issue that caused Tiger Palm to grant an additional stack of Mark of the Crane when Storm, Earth, and Fire is active. This one is a pretty big deal. Mark of the Crane is the buff you get whenever you strike an enemy with Tiger Palm. Each unique enemy that you strike gives you a stack of this buff, which increases the damage of your spinning crane kick. So being able to get way more extra stacks through Storm, Earth, and Fire just enables you to get into your maximum AoE damage much faster. So having that not work anymore, that's a big nerf. Also here, fixed an issue that allowed Mark of the Crane to be maintained permanently at maximum stacks while fighting a single target. So that's going to drop off. Again, that was another massive damage boost that you could just stay at max stat. You're supposed to just get a stack for every unique enemy you're fighting, and they're supposed to drop off then. It was bugged, so that was really upping your damage. Right. Fix an issue that could prevent Storm, Earth, and Fire from using Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, and Whirling Dragon Punch. So that sounds very good. Fix an issue that allowed Storm, Earth, and Fire spirits to continue channeling Fist of Fury after the monk's Fist of Fury channel ended. So apparently this could be exploited as well for some burst damage, that you could have them keep... or maybe this was a bad thing. I don't know. I guess you could interrupt your own Fist of Fury to do some more bursty stuff, and they keep doing it. Would that be good or bad? Or maybe you'd want them to stop to do, like, I don't know, Whirling Dragon Punch instead. I have no idea. Someone let me know about this, but it's certainly interesting. And then another one here, fix an issue that could cause spinning crane kicks damage to not be properly increased by Mark of the Crane if targets die with the Monk's Mark active. Okay, cool. So quite a few bug fixes here to Windwalker that I think will actually have a fairly significant effect on them. As you guys possibly know, Windwalker is an absolute monster right now in terms of the damage that they can do. So it's probably going to be reined in a bit by some of these bug fixes. We'll see. Fix an issue as well that caused Feline Stomp to not deal damage when used to engage creatures in combat. And Fallen Order's Venthyr, Fallen Tiger, and Ox Adepts had their stats increased by 20%. Cool. For Paladins, Holy Shock costs 16% mana, up from 14%. Ardent Defender's Heal now has a visual effect. That's kind of nice. Vanquisher's Hammer for Necrolord now generates 1 holy power when used. This is really nice, I think, for Necrolord. The other Paladin... I don't know if Night Fae Paladin really gets much play at all. But, you know, Venthyr and, of course, Kyrian gets plenty of play for Paladin. Giving Necrolord some love is pretty nice. Generating that Holy Power is very good. Basically what it does, Vanquisher's Hammer empowers your next Holy Power spender, specific spender, like your Templar's Verdict. Your single target spender will also pop a Divine Storm, your AoE spender for a Ret Paladin. Giving you Holy Power when you use it now enables you to get to that thing faster, and probably affects your opening rotation and stuff like that in a very positive way, so that's great. For Conduits, extra spells from Ringing Clarity for Kyrian now have a longer delay between hits. Additionally, Area of Effect Judgment hits from Divine Toll are no longer reduced by 25% in PvP, and Judgment triggered from Ringing Clarity is reduced by 25% in PvP. Virtuous Command no longer plays an attack animation when it triggers, and then fix an issue that caused the additional Templar's Verdict from Templar's Vindication to not deal damage based on the initial Templar's Verdict. Cool. For Priest, we have some pretty substantial changes here as well. First up, Discipline. Spirit Shell now absorbs 80% of healing done. It was formerly 100%, and the absorption limit is now based on the caster's spell power rather than maximum health. This is a pretty huge deal. This scaling stuff is going to scale well into the expansion that might be a bit weaker right now. The bigger deal is this, whereas again, you were formerly doing 100% of the healing you were doing is becoming an Absorb Shield instead. Now it's only 80%. So you're actually losing quite a lot of healing value by doing this. But of course, you know, having an Absorb Shield on a fight like Mythic Sludge Fist, you can watch our kill video on Mythic Sludge Fist. I was playing Disc Priest. We had another Disc Priest as well. So 2 Disc Priests. And you can see the value of the Absorb Shields when you've got these massive bursts of raid damage. Having an Absorb Shield, this gives you that gigantic cushion. It doesn't matter as much if it's not as effective as pure healing. It's because the effectiveness comes from effectively increasing your maximum health so you don't get one-shot by overlaps, right? So it's still going to be good. I think this is a great change, though, because Spirit Shell was too good, I think, for sure. So I think this is a good change. Very good change. This nerf needed to happen. Yeah, it definitely needed to happen. For Holy Divine Hymn, increases healing taken by 4% for 15 seconds, was 10% for 8, but it now stacks up to 5 times. So the way this works is Divine Hymn, it ticks when you cast it, and then it ticks every 2 seconds, so you get 5 ticks. So basically, after the 3rd tick, so, you know, the instant you cast it, and then 2 ticks in, which is, you know, 4 seconds, probably less than that with haste, like 3.5 seconds. After the first 3.5 seconds, you're up to 12% more healing taken. So you're already better off there. It's weaker for the first 3 ticks, but after that it's stronger. And then certainly once you finish the Divine Hymn, once the Divine Hymn is over, whereas before you were giving everyone in your party or raid group 10% more healing for 8 seconds from every source, from all the other healers, right? Everything. Now you're giving them 20% for 15 seconds. This is a massive buff, and this gives Holy a much stronger niche in raids, where in situations where there's very strong sustained damage over a 30-second period, if damage keeps ramping up, Holy is going to be incredible because you can cover like an 8-second chunk of time channeling your Divine Hymn, or 6 point something depending on your haste. And then afterwards, massive healing buff for everyone for 15 seconds after, 20% more healing. That's insane. It's so strong. So I think that's great. Good contrast then to Disc. Kind of upping that contrast. Disc gives you really short, massive bursts of healing. Holy gives you much more sustained healing. I think it's good. I think it's a great change. Also great for Prideful, right? Channel through, you know, I don't know, whatever, 10, 20 seconds into Prideful, start channeling Divine Hymn, and then the Divine Hymn healing buff is going to carry you through the whole rest of Prideful with that one cooldown. For Shadow, Master Shadow Weaving no longer benefits multiple times from damage amplifying effects, and Shadowy Apparitions no longer causes targets to drop stealth if they deal no damage. So I guess this is probably something like rogues popping Cloak of Shadows are still getting dropped from stealth or something like that. I'm not really sure. Cool. For Covenant abilities, Fey Guardians for the Night Fae. Guardian Fairy now gives 20% damage reduction, was 10%, and Wrathful Fairy will now automatically be sent to the closest enemy target if Fey Guardians is used while an ally is targeted. There was a buff to the cooldown reduction fairy as well on the test realm, but thankfully they removed that, though it is still very, very strong. Wrathful Fairies now properly grants resources to the casting priest when there are multiple Wrathful Fairies active on the target, and Mind Games Venthyr no longer reverses damage or healing from itself when reflected. Interesting. I'm not sure what that exact interaction would be for PvP. I can certainly tell you, I miss mind games now. I'm Night Fae now in my priest. I really miss mind games in PvP. Though there was nothing worse than casting in and getting it spell reflected. You're like, oh my god, I'm a dummy. So that's interesting. Very cool. Okay. Conduits Fae for Mata for the Night Fae now lose an 80% effective copy of their benefit, was 60%, and can no longer be stacked on top of a fairy for double benefit. Okay, I think that's a great thing. Again, Spirit Shell on this cooldown reduction, Fae Guardians, plus Power Infusion. There's a lot. It's the simp spec of Priest. There's a lot of potential for that sort of stuff to be exceptionally broken. Obviously, as you guys will have seen, I'm sure, especially in like MDI for sure. Yeah, getting double benefit, that would have been nutty. You could have given people like, essentially you're giving them double cooldown reduction while Fate Guardians was on them. And then you could have given them another stack of that, basically. It's good that doesn't work. That would have been so stupid. Right, great, good fix. Good fix. For rogues then. For rogues, Assassination. Level 56, you get a new passive, Cut to the Chase. Envenom extends the duration of your Slice and Dice by up to 3 seconds per combo point spent. So that's cool, but Slice and Dice rank 2 has been removed. This is where Slice and Dice would give you energy regen as well for Assassination. You get this instead, which I think is much better. Essentially, once you get Slice and Dice up and you're in combat, you basically should never have to reapply Slice and Dice. So you put it on once, and then it just sort of maintains itself. I think that's quite cool. Venomous Wounds now gives 8 energy with 7. Nice buff there. Fixed an issue that prevented Crimson Tempest from triggering Alacrity. Good bug fix. And fixed an issue that allowed Poison Bomb to deal damage to sap targets while not breaking the crowd control. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll see going through this rogue stuff. I'm curious what else they're going to change with rogue. I definitely would like to see Assassination Rogue come back into the meta. And I think I would like to see them as well push the single target, 2 target, and execute strengths of Assassination even a bit further to give you a really good reason to bring them. It's something that rogue I think struggles with a bit at the moment, is that there's not a ton of reason to bring rogues, certainly to raiding. There's not a ton of reason to bring rogues because other specs do the rogue specific stuff, the rogue specific strengths better most of the time right now. I don't think they're changing it here. We'll see though. We'll see. For Subtlety, fix an issue that caused premeditation to rarely not be applied when entering stealth. Okay, bug fix is good. And Covenant abilities, we've got quite a few big changes here. Fix an issue that caused Echoing Reprimand to apply Find Weakness for non-sub rogues when cast from stealth. Okay. Serrated Bone, here's a big rework. Serrated Bone Spike, okay? Damage increased by 300% and now grants 1 combo point plus 1 per active Bone Spike after it strikes the target. But Serrated Bone Spike is now removed when the target leaves combat, no longer refunds a charge, and gets removed when the target is healed to full. And then fix an issue, okay? But yeah, there you go. Pretty crazy here. So basically, your Bone Spike is just going to straight up hit much harder now when you first cast it. It's going to give you, all those combo points, which is great. But yeah, it's not going to be giving you back charges when people are healed to full. So you're not going to be like constantly getting Serrated Bone Spikes back and having to reapply the bleeds and stuff. It's just going to be a much more simple spell that just hits way harder out the gate. So I think that is a good change overall for sure. So there you go. Yep. And it's also going to be increased by Assassination's Mastery, so that's nice as well. Broadside, Outlaw Talent now correctly causes Sepsis to generate an additional combo point. Oh, that's cool. Flagellation, here we go, another rework. Flagellation for the Venthyr no longer costs energy, was 20 before. Duration reduced to 12 seconds, was 20 before. Haste is now granted immediately and no longer has a second activation. And the initial damage increased by 270%. Additional damage from spending combo points increased by 160%. And it deals damage 1 time upon use, was 3. So much better. So the old version of Flagellation, it cost you energy, so it slowed down your opener. And then you had 20 seconds to keep building up these flagellation stacks, these flagellation hits, which were doing nothing. It was not flagellation, it was feather eration, tickling them with a feather, right? So it did almost nothing. But you would build up these stacks, stacks for 20 seconds. Then you would pop it after 20 seconds. You had to activate the ability again, and then it would give you a bunch of haste. But here's the issue, right? You open up on someone in PvP or in raid or in dungeons, like you're opening up on them. You're doing all of your damage then, right? And this is actually, because it costs 20 energy and probably costs a GCD as well, I assume. This was wasting. It was making your opener actually weaker and then you would get the buff. You get a buff after 20 seconds. So was it, but your damage cooldowns would be done by then. So it was terrible. Now this is so much better. Number one, this now does way more damage. Way more damage. You're getting haste instantly, and every time you spend combo points, you're getting a bit more haste. You're not wasting any energy. Yeah, this is just a million times better. So I think this is going to feel a lot better. It actually seems quite cool now, I have to say. You know, the more combo points you spend within this cooldown window, this 12 seconds, you know, the more combo points you spend, the more haste you get, so you get rewarded. It's upping the impact now of your opener rather than being something that makes your opener slightly worse for a benefit after 20 seconds. And none of this second activation nonsense. So much better, so much more usable. Lashing Scars for the Venthyr. Again, the conduit for this now causes 4 additional lashes. This was 2, which allows the rogue to start at 5% haste upon activation. So that's great. That conduit becomes really nice. Just bam, get a good chunk of haste just right at the bat. Awesome. Then fix an issue that caused the odds buff to be removed when any roll the bones enhancements expire. Okay. For Shaman, quite a few changes here. I love this. Chain lightning damage increased by 35%, straight up. Very welcome for Resto, for Ellie, for enhancement. All of them use chain lightning. That's a nice buff. Lightning shields damage increased by 415%. Blizzard's like, we slightly, developer comment, we slightly undertuned lightning shield. Nice. For Elemental, Earth Shock damage up by 30%, Earthquake damage up by 70%, Lava Beam damage by 35%, and Lava Burst by 10%. You'll see basically what's going on here. You're probably going, wait, what? This is their main AoE spender? What? Are they going to be completely insane? You'll see when we come to the Legendaries that the reason that they're doing this, they're nerfing down the Earthquake Legendary to basically make it so that if you're not running the Earthquake Legendary, you can actually still do decent AoE damage, which is good. So it's a great change overall. Really great for Shaman, I think. For Enhancement, Lava Lash damage up by 40%. That is awesome. Especially goes for some of those Lava Lash talents. Stormkeeper now increases Chain Lightning by 300% with 2 Lightning Bolts. So kind of putting in Stormkeeper as real AoE focused, bursty talent for Enhancement compared to single target thing. That's good. Stormbringer now correctly triggers from Ice Strike and Sundering, and fix an issue where Stormkeeper and Maelstrom Weapon were both increasing the damage of Chain Lightning at the same time. Okay. For Restoration, Lava Burst damage reduced by 10%. I'm not particularly sure why they've nerfed this. Maybe it was too strong. I wasn't aware that this was too strong. There you go. I don't know. I'm not like when you tell me like damage dealing healer, I'm not thinking Resto Shaman. No, I'm thinking like Discipline Priest with PI on a DPS. So I'm thinking, you know, Venthyr, Holy Paladin maybe a bit as well for sure. Not really thinking Resto, so this seems a bit mean, but we'll see. Fix an issue where Earthen Wall could absorb more damage than intended when an area damage spell hit multiple allies. All right. Then Covenant changes here. Vesper Totem. Damage and healing increased by 25% for Kyrian. Cool. Fey Transfusion damage increased by 25%, and the healing from damage conversion increased to 60%, was 40, and the heal radius increased to 20 yards, was 12 yards. So this is just much stronger and much more usable as well. So that's a really nice buff to that, because it was certainly quite clunky. Primordial Waves, Enhancement Lightning Bolt effect now deals 150% damage, was 100%. So this is really good. Certainly I, from playing my own Shaman, which was Necrolord, excuse me, it felt very, very bad on Enhancement Shaman. It just felt like it interrupted your rotation in a weird way. So this doing more damage is going to make it feel better. Fix an issue that makes Primordial Wave not be usable on allies in Mercenary mode. Chain Harvest for Venthyr. Damage and hitting increased by 15% for Ellie and Resto Shaman. This is actually a pretty big deal. I believe that is actually quite strong for Resto Shamans in dungeons. So that's great for them. But yeah, it's just kind of making this more attractive for them compared to Necrolord. And but it was already the best one for enhancement, so no buffs there. Chain Harvest will now light up the action bar when players cast it instantly through Maelstrom Weapon. Okay, great. So it's going to look fancier. Cool. Great. That's the change for enhancement. It looks better on your action bars. Warlock. Curse of Tongues now lasts 1 minute and 20 seconds. 1 minute in PvE, 20 seconds in PvP compared to 30 seconds and 12. Okay, that's a big buff. That's very strong now in PvP, I think. We'll see. For Affliction, Malefic Rapture no longer causes targets to drop stealth if it deals no damage. Seed of Corruption now properly deals damage and applies Corruption if the Warlock has crowd control when it detonates. That's a good change. That would have been really annoying. Didn't know that was a thing. That would suck. Okay, interesting. Demonology, summon Dreadstalkers, Demonic Tyrant, Vilefield, Nether Portal Demons, Grim War, Felguard will now listen to primary pet commands. Okay, so you can redirect them. That's cool. Call Dreadstalkers, attack power increased by 10%, Dreadbite and Dreadlash damage increased by 10%. Nice buff there, and interesting buffs to some talent builds around the Dreadstalkers. For Destruction, Mastery Chaotic Energy now properly increases the damage of Corruption. Okay. Covenant abilities. Scouring Tithe now requires the Warlock to be facing its target. Decimating Bolt damage. Bonus damage from the target's missing health increased to 100% with 60%, so a nice buff to that one. It's a really fun Covenant ability, which was dominant for all of beta, then got nerfed into the ground and has seen almost no play, so happy to see it being buffed up again. Impending Catastrophe damage while moving towards its target increased by 10%, and the explosion damage increased by 15%. Likewise for Venthyr, this is a really cool AoE ability that looks awesome and applies curses as well, which is great. But again, they nerfed it so hard in the beta, it wasn't that strong anymore. So getting buffs is good. I hope it is good. Impending Catastrophe no longer damages totems in its path to the target. Okay, so PvP fix there. For Warriors then, fix an issue that allowed Intervene to be applied to targets under the effect of Cyclone. Fix an issue that prevented the Whirlwind buff to not be applied to the Warrior if Whirlwind was cast during charge. Damage of all abilities for protection increased by 10%, and Thunderclap does an additional 10% damage. This is big. We'll see this Conqueror banner rework as well. Flag Protection Warrior as a major contender in patch 9.0.5. Seriously, guys, really flag it. This is one of the big upcoming specs. Bear in mind, what tanks did the world first guild use in Castle Nathria? What did Limit use? They used Protection Warrior already, and now they're getting buffed. So this is massively one to watch for. And check this out. This Covenant ability, Necrolord, Conqueror's Banner has been redesigned, the new version. Brandish the Conqueror's Banner, granting 400 mastery and 30% increased move speed to you and your 2 nearest allies, and prevent move speed being reduced below 100%. Cooldown is 2 minutes, the duration is 15 seconds, rage generation is 4 rage per second for arms and prots, and 6 rage per second for fury. This is pretty nuts. This is pretty nuts. So just straight up 15 seconds of 400 mastery on a 2-minute cooldown to you and your 2 nearest allies. There's going to be a lot of gameplay I expect based around this. If this is as strong as it seems, this could be insane. If you think about specs that scale really well off of mastery, I mean, and they're going to have these 2-minute cooldowns, this could be kind of nuts when you stack that stuff together, you know. If you're able to, if it's a bit awkward with balanced druids because they don't want to be in melee with Convoke, right? But balanced druids, Shadow Priest, which I play, Shadow Priest loves mastery. That's insane. Yeah, there's just so much potential for this to be nutty. You could have some weird movement positioning things required to get the most out of this, but this seems exceptionally strong. Yeah, really, really strong. All right. For Covenants then, we got a couple of general changes as well affecting all classes. For the Necrolords, Fleshcraft redesigned. This has been nerfed slightly from the initial redesign on the PTR. Form a shield of flesh and bone over 3 seconds instead of 4 that absorbs damage equal to 40% max health for 2 minutes, so that's buffed as well. While channeling, your damage taken is reduced by 20%. Pretty awesome. And then on top of that, just passively, whenever you move near an enemy corpse, you consume their essence, which reduces Fleshcraft's cooldown by 1 second. So you don't need to channel near corpses anymore. It's just whenever you pass by a corpse, it reduces the cooldown. So yeah, now it's kind of awesome, right? 3-second channel that gives you 20% damage reduction and makes a shield for 40% of your max health for 2 minutes. This has turned, instead, the old version was like a 20% max health shield, right? With a 4-second channel. Basically, the old version, you wouldn't even cast in combat. It just wasn't worth it. This new version is very strong. It's really strong, right? You're targeted by a big damage effect. Channel your Fleshcraft, get a big shield and a big damage reduction. Very powerful. Really, really strong. You know, if you think of any of those big nasty overlaps, those big damage sources that would kill you, this gives you an extra really good defensive. So this is big. This is really big. Yeah, very, very big. Soul Binds then. And slime creatures within Plaguefall give their buffs when their corpses are consumed by the passive effect, right? So you don't need to channel Fleshcraft on these slime corpses. You just need to walk by the slime corpses. You get the buff. Much better. Volatile Solvent now triggers when Fleshcraft's passive effect consumes a corpse's essence. And then Resourceful Fleshcrafting for Bonesmith Hermir has been redesigned. When Fleshcraft's passive effect consumes a corpse, the cooldown of Fleshcraft is reduced by an additional 1 second. Anima Conductor, Flowing Powerhouse of Rituals. Skeletal Command. No, summons a skeleton when Fleshcraft's passive effect consumes a corpse, and it has a 5-second cooldown between summoning skeletons. That's pretty cool. That'd be great for world questing, yeah. Night Fae. Spirits within the Queen's Conservatory or eager to return to life will now automatically provide players with their reward without having to speak to them first. Cool. Soulbinds. Fix an issue that caused players to die through pod tender if the lethal blow had a large overkill. Prevent Fear, the Ember Quartz. This one is great because this was a pain in the ass, especially this frickin' disco bear was the frickin' worst. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Guests who have reached best friend status with give you a permanent RSVP. It's quite a grind to get best friend, but okay. The permanent RSVP will allow all characters on your account to invite that guest to future Ember Quartz without completing their RSVP quest again. I guess this might be good for alts. But I mean, does anyone like the Ember Court enough that you're running this on 2 characters? I don't know. This seems crazy to me. To me, the only benefit for this seems to be if you played like Venthyr right now, and then you end up switching to a different character when you come back later in the expansion, or you just swap or whatever, that you can go back to the Ember Court on your new character without having to do this stupid grind again. But yeah, anyway. Temel and Sinfall sells a bind an account book at Exalted. The book teaches your Dredger Butler how to handle the cleanup and restocking quests that follow the Ember Court. That is awesome. Basically, these requests, they were just kind of tedious quests that you have to do every time. Now your butler does it automatically, and that's bind on account as well. So for your alts, Ember Court needs, you're sorted. One-time reputation items from Tamil and Lady Ilinka will no longer appear once learned. Okay, great. And then this one, Droman Aliot's RSVP no longer requires players to venture to Bastion and Maldraxxus for items. Yes. This is the worst. This freaking disco bear in Ardenweald. You have to go to the bear, and then the bear would want you to get stuff. You'd have to go to all these vendors and backtrack. It just took fucking forever. So it's great that that's fixed. It was awful. And then, okay, Service and Stone from General Draven can no longer be parried. Okay, cool. All right, a few changes then to dungeons and raids. Let's go through this a little bit quicker because this video's getting long. All right, Halls of Atonement. Loyal Stoneborn lasts for 45 seconds instead of 30, so buffing up Venthyr. Loyal Stoneborn damage reduced by 50%. And Stoneborn boon duration increased to 45 seconds. Okay, so they do much less damage, but they stick around for longer. Interesting. Okay, so it's more somewhat upping the defensive boost, but nerfing the offensive value. Interesting change. Okay, so probably not a buff overall, but interesting. For Sanguine Depths, Anima cages now persist for 1 minute after activation, was 45 seconds, so making it easier to kill mobs near them to get that buff, while active Sinfall boon is applied to players when any enemy is slain nearby, and duration increased to 75 seconds. They moved one of the Anima cages away from so this is the one before the bridge. I wonder where they've moved it to. What you could do with this one is you would crack the cage, and then you would kill enemies in the room behind the cage, and it would actually trigger through the wall. That's funny, but this is a big buff to Venthyr in Sanguine Depths, a very, very big buff. Here's some big stuff here. Mythic Dungeon Keystones. The formula for determining the level of the first keystone you receive each week has been adjusted. Okay. Previously, players would receive a keystone 1 level below the highest they completed so far in Season 1. After this change, okay. I feel like they changed... I guess this is what they changed it to. A player who completed a level 15 keystone will receive a level 14 keystone. If they don't complete a 15 keystone or higher, they get a 13 keystone. I feel like they changed this a bit, but I can't remember off the top of my head what they changed it to. I kind of liked this old version, to be honest. So, yeah. Well, I'll come back to you guys with info on that, because I can't remember off the top of my head. Plaguefall to Minna Venomblade. Brood Assassins no longer trigger Necrotic. This is fantastic. Basically, you summon it. She makes, whatever, 4 or 5 Brood Assassins at a time. With Necrotic, it could be impossible to reset Necrotic for certain tanks, which is horrible. So this is much better. Sanguine Depths then, General Cal's Gauntlet. Stonewall Gargons no longer trigger Necrotic. Again, that's wonderful. It just makes Necrotic much less of a pain to manage. Makes it sensible. So that's great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. All right then. Wandering Ancient is now available. I don't know if you just get it in the mail or something. I have no idea. They asked him in BlizzCon, and he didn't answer the question. It was hilarious. Gear acquired from Mythic Keystone Dungeons are now upgradable with Valor, a new currency that is earned from completing Mythic Keystone Dungeons and Covenant Callings. The weekly Valor cap will start at 5,000 Valor, earnable in the first week, and increases by 750 Valor each week. There'll be a maximum. Okay, so I think they got rid of this. But this may be the case that you could hold a maximum 1,500 Valor. I believe that they have gotten rid of this, but I'm not. That's not confirmed, but I believe that is the case. Gear that dropped before the patch is unable to be upgraded, right? So essentially, big new currency that you can earn to upgrade dungeon gear, which is fantastic, but that dungeon gear has to have dropped after the patch, right? You can upgrade it to 200. That's totally fine. To get it up to 207, you need Keystone Explorer. To get it to 213, you need Keystone Conqueror. 220, you need Keystone Master. Personally, I think, why not let you upgrade things to 226, right? 226, that makes sense to me. It's a weekly currency. You can upgrade your PvP gear to 226, right? Just make, I don't know, like Keystone Master let people upgrade to 226. I don't really see why there is this cap here. Because it is, I understand that they want 226 gear to be weekly locked, like raids, conquest, but Valor is weekly locked as well, just like conquest. So why not? Why not? Completing a mythic keystone dungeon after the timer is ended now rewards a second item. The item level of the second item, though, will be slightly lower. So basically, if you do fail your timer, you're going to get more loot. It'll be slightly weaker, but hey, more loot is more loot. It's still pretty okay. The Great Vault loot requirements for raiding are now to defeat 3, 6, or 9 raid bosses. So especially for LFR raiders, you can just do the 3 wings. You don't have to do the 4th wing with the Denathrius, I guess. Or just for people in general, you can get that loot without having killed Denathrius, I suppose. Potency conduits now also drop in Castle Nathria. That's pretty big. And once players reach 40 renown with their Covenant, their weekly quest to gather 1,000 Anima now awards you with 1,500 gold. So it's just something that you passively do, but not really worth focusing on at all. Once players have recruited the maximum amount of souls for their Covenant, your weekly quest to rescue souls now awards you with 500 Anima. So it sort of helps you do this if you're still working towards it. I don't think you would be working towards it. You'd be maxed out anyway. So again, this is something that you might not even bother doing, to be honest. Yeah, it's probably not even worth doing. Unless you want that Anima to upgrade stuff or get the transmog gear. It's nice if you do need that. It's very nice. Rhinestone sunglasses can now be used in transmog. Will appear in your collection once found. Vendor prices for items below level 75 have been adjusted. Don't know how. Lightless Force weapon enchant no longer targets out of combat or crowd-controlled enemies. Hunger of the Pack trinket now grants speed stat instead of movement speed percentage. And the barrier generator toy can no longer be used in instant PvP. So this is nerfing it down. Was that I think this might be the trinket out of Halls of Valor, which is a Legion dungeon. So now it gives you flat stat instead of percentage, which probably means that for high level people, it's significantly worse. Okay. Legendary powers. This is another massive change. Let's go. This is one whopper of a video. For DKs, Blood, Pheromones gives 10% haste inside death and decay. That's a buff. Crimson Rune Weapon now causes Dancing Rune Weapon to generate 5 Bone Shield charges and reduces the cooldown of Dancing Rune Weapon by 5 seconds. So instantly a bunch of charges is awesome. That helps you just get Bone Shielded up for fight instantly, which is great, and then reducing the cooldown is great, so that's much better. Vampiric Aura now increases the duration of Vamp Blood by 3 seconds and gives 5% leech for the duration. This is the one that makes your Vamp Blood apply an unlimited effect to your allies as well, to your whole party, so that's pretty great. Makes Vamp Blood last longer and gives you some leech, so it gives you personally more benefit. It's not just a party thing, so that's awesome. Gorfine's Domination now also gives 45 runic power from Vampiric Blood is used. For Unholy, Reanimated Shambler explosion damage increased by 5% and procs a bit more often, so a small buff to that. For Demon Hunter, Fell Bombardments, buff duration been increased to 40 seconds and the chance to trigger increased by 5%. This is a really fun legendary. It makes your throw extra glaives and do way more damage. So now you get to control when you use it more, and you'll be able to build it up more consistently. Darkglare Medallion's chance to trigger increased to 40% and now also refunds the fury of the casted Eyebeam or Fell Devastation. This is big. Basically, this is a chance to reset the cooldown of Eyebeam or Fell Dev when you cast them at 20%. Bear in mind, these are abilities you cast like every 30 seconds or every, I think, 1 minute with Fell Devastation. A 20% chance to trigger, like you could go through a fight and see it like a big raid fight, a long raid fight, and you might not see it reset at all. Pretty awful. This is much more consistent, and by refunding the Fury as well, this becomes much better. Went from an absolutely horrible RNG legendary to a much less horrible RNG legendary. Havoc, burning wound damage over time increased 100%, and immolation aura damage increased by 65% was 50. So this is, I think, when you do your Demon's Bite on targets, it leaves a burning wound on them, so it's now going to do more damage, and it makes your Immo aura do a lot more damage to them. It's pretty cool. Fun multi-dotty thing. Vengeance, the casted eye beam from Collective Anguish's summoned ally, now always deals critical strike. So this is when you do Fell Devastation with this legendary. You'll have a Havoc Demon Hunter pops in and does eye beam. It's now always going to crit, which is what eye beam is supposed to do. Spirit of the Darknesses. Spirit of the Darkness Flames Fiery Brand instant damage increased by 20% was 15%. Okay. Druids. Cat Eye Curio now restores 30% energy, was 25%, and increased both of Frenzy Band's effects by 50%. So Frenzy Band is way, way stronger. This ups the effectiveness of your Frenzy, I guess it is called. So that's nice. Nice buffs there to Feral Druid. They're actually doing pretty well, so it's great to see them get even more buffs. Feral Druid, pretty solid spec at the moment. For Guardian, Legacy of the Sleeper's Berserk description now notes that the Druid is immune to crowd control while active. Okay, tooltip fix. For Restoration, Verdant Infusion extends the duration of your heal over time effects on the Swiftman target by 10 seconds, was 8 seconds. Pretty awesome, especially if you extend Cenarian Ward, for example. For Beast Mastery Hunters, Dire Command has a 30% chance to trigger, up from 20%. Rylax Stalker's Piercing Fangs, critical damage increased to 35%, up from 20%. So that's crit damage in Bestial Wrath, I think. Flame Walker's Cobra Sting now has a 50% chance to trigger. It was 25%. And Quapla Eridan War Order now resets the cooldown of Kill Command and has an additional passive effect of Barb Shot, does 10% increased damage. So I think people were pointing out that generally speaking, the 5-second cooldown reduction was pretty much enough to get cooldown of Kill Command back whenever you did a Barb Shot. But this just makes it a bit more consistent, I guess, especially with lower levels of haste. And more Barb Shot damage is pretty meaningless, but nice little fixes there overall. For Marksmanship, Surging Shots now causes Rapid Fire to do 35% more damage, up from 25%. Eagle Talon's True Focus, this is a nice change. Increases the duration of True Shot by 3 seconds and reduces focus costs by 25%. That's down from 50%. I think you take, though, the extra duration of True Shot. It's a lot more fun than all that focus reduction. So that's pretty cool. You do have to manage your focus a little bit, but that's still pretty awesome. And Serpent Stalker's Trickery no longer triggers Wild Spirits, the Night Fae ability, twice. Latent Poison Injectors damage increased by 15% for Survival. For Mages, Disciplinary Command increases critical strike damage by 20%, up from 15%. I think this is the one where you have to cast spells of all your different spell schools to trigger it, so that's cool. Expanded Potential, procs per minute, increased to 2, was 1.66. This is nice because this is quite fun, right, where it will give you the Hot Streak or Brain Freeze or Clear Casting. That's really fun, so I'm glad to see that changed. For Arcane, Arcane Harmony damage increased per stack to 8%, was 7, and it stacks 18 times, was 15. For Fire, Molten Skyfall now calls down a Meteor after casting 18 Fireballs, or Pyroblast is 25, so triggers much more often. Sun King's Blessing, this is a fun one, now only requires consuming 8 Hot Streaks and gives you Combustion for 6 seconds instead of for 5, so again, triggers much more often, and it's easier to use that Combustion, so that's really fun, I think. For Frost then, Cold Front calls down a Frozen Orb after casting 30 Frostbolts or Flurries with 60, so they've halved that. And then Freezing Winds now triggers Fingers of Frost every 2 seconds, was 3, so again another really nice buff to that one. For Monk, Showhouse Might now causes Tiger Palm to have a 40% chance to deal 300% of normal damage and reduce the remaining cooldown of your brews by an additional 2 seconds. Really big buff to that. They're quadrupling the chances on top of upping the damage and doubling the cooldown reduction, so massive buff to that, and I think that's quite fun. Brewmaster Mighty Pour now causes Celestial Brew to increase your armor by 50% for 8 seconds instead of 25% for 7, and gives Purifying Brew a 35% chance not to consume a charge. So if you need some mega defensive, this is now a mega defensive. 50% armor during Celestial Brew. It's going to be very, very difficult for anything to break through that. So that's an interesting option for a mega defensive. Plus Purifying Brew, more resets is kind of nice too. Could be good on some fights. Mistweaver, Clouded Focus healing increased by 20% and mana cost reduced by 20%. So that's up from 15%. I believe this is the one where if you keep casting spells into a Soothing Mist, it keeps ramping up the healing and reducing the mana cost. Awkward to use, but again has some niche uses. I still don't know if it'll be that common. And for Windwalker, Zwen's Battle Gear critical strike chance increased by 50% was 30%, and Fist of Fury cooldown reduction reduced by 5 seconds was 2.5. That's quite fun, quite cool. I like that one. I think it's Rising Sun Kick, does more damage after you Fist of Fury or something like that. The cooldown reduction is awesome, so yeah, that seems quite fun. For Paladin, Vanguard's Momentum increases holy damage by 4% for 10 seconds. That's up from 3% for 8, so much more usable. Of Dusk and Dawn, buff duration increased to 12 seconds instead of 8. And Blessing of Dusk damage reduction increased to 4% was 3. This is great, because man, what a hassle to manage that. That's when you get to 5 holy power or 0, specifically 5 or 0. It will give you these blessings, but really awkward to keep them on a good uptime, because they only lasted 8 seconds. You got much more leeway now. It's much easier to maintain it, so I think that's really good. For Holy, Inflorescence of the Sunwell increases Infusion of Light's effects by 30%, was 20%. Shadowbreaker, Dawn of the Sun, buff duration increased to 8 seconds, was 6. Murad's Dying Breath, healing bonus to Light of the Martyr no longer increases self-damage taken. That's actually quite fun, and it also causes all Light of the Martyr self-damage to be dealt over 5 seconds. This is pretty big. This is the one that makes your Light of the Martyr stronger, obviously, but you're not going to be killing yourself with it now. It comes in as a dot instead, so it's very easy to heal. So this is actually quite a fun niche legendary now, I think. Protection. Ardent Protector Sanctum has been redesigned. When Ardent Defender saves you from death, it restores 40% additional health, and when Ardent Defender expires without saving you from death, its remaining cooldown is reduced by 40%, was 60 seconds. So, nice little buff to that, makes it more usable, I think. Fix an issue, where it would... Oh, yeah, it used to put Ardent Defender on a second target. Now it's purely about protecting yourself instead, which is good. Okay, and then some, whatever... it would put a nearby protection paladin's Ardent Defender on cooldown. That's hilarious. With 2 paladin tanks, you'd screw each other. Funny. Fix an issue that caused the Magistrate's Judgment to be consumed when casting a free Word of Glory through Shining Light. So again, a little bug fix there. Retribution, Final Verdict's damage up by 15%. And the Magistrate's Judgment now grants proper amount of Crusade stacks when Holy Power is spent while under its effects. Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay. Cauterizing Shadows healings increased by 36% and can now critically strike. That's a big buff for the priests. For Discipline, Cauterizing Shower now functions with Mastery Grace as bonus healing to targets with Atonement on them. Kiss of Death, reduce the cooldown of Shadow Word Death by 12 seconds was 8. It's still quite niche. Maybe, could be sort of useful for dungeons, maybe. Interesting option. Holy, Divine Image now casts Searing Light when Shadow Word Pain or Mind Games are used, and casts Holy Nova when Unholy Nova is used. Okay, great. So they're going to actually interact with some of your Covenant abilities. Additionally, if the priest is crowd controlled while Divine Image is active, it will cast single target healing spells on nearby low HP allies. That's fun. That's quite fun. I think priests are more usually using the Revive on Death thingy, but I don't know. That could be great for PvP. Divine Image Spell Mirroring cooldowns removed, e.g. queuing up a Shadow Word Death after a Holy Fire will now trigger 2 Searing Lights. Oh, okay. Flash Concentration buff. This is a big one. Increased to 20 seconds with 15. This one is super fun. Basically, you can build up this buff by casting Flash Heals that buffs the damage of your, or buffs the healing of your heal and lowers the cast time massively as well. With 15 seconds, I've been playing with this one. It was quite a pain to manage. You'd have to reset it all the time. This buys you a lot of time. Like, kind of, my rough rule of thumb was reset it in the last 5 seconds. So you had like 10 seconds of free cast and heal, and then 5 seconds where you need to stress and reapply. Now you're going to have 15 seconds of free cast and heal, and then 5 seconds to stress, if we go by the same sort of rule of thumb, which is essentially actually much bigger buff than it sounds. It's like a 50% increase uptime to your stress-free time, which is good. Measured Contemplation is now cleared upon starting an arena match. For Shadow, Painbreaker Sam generates up to 30 insanity and now functions with Death and Madness. That's a good fix. I think it's still not great though. This one is better. Shadowflame Rift's damage increased by 40%. This is the Shadowflame Prism. This is makes your Mindbender do way more damage. This is going to be good in AoE. This is going to be good for AoE, so for Mythic Plus and for AoE raid fights. So that's a great change to that. It's pretty cool. Gives some variety, and it's a really fun legendary, I think. For Rogues, Mark of the Master Assassin now only affects auto attack and rogue abilities critical strike chance. Okay, so it's not affecting other things like trinkets and stuff, I guess. And, oh, probably especially like some of the weapons in like Necrotic Wake that you could pick up. It's not going to affect those, which is a good bug fix, as that was a little ridiculous. Tiny Toxic Blade now makes Shiv do 500% more damage. Okay. Essence of the Bloodfang damage increased by 30%. I don't think either of those are very interesting, but there you are. Doom Blade now does an additional 45% bleed damage, up from 30. And Duskwalker's Patch reduces Vendetta's cooldown for every 30 energy you expend instead of 50. So get a lot more cooldown reduction. So these are both good changes, I think. Excuse me. For Outlaw, Guile Charm now increases the damage you deal by 15%, was 10%. Lasts up to 12 seconds instead of 10, so more manageable, just a bit better. Still very passive though. Greenskins Wickers increases the damage of your next pistol shot by 300%, was 200%. Concealed Blunderbuss now has a chance to fire your next pistol shot 3 additional times, was 2 additional times. For Subtlety Rogues, the Rotten now causes Backstab to do 50% increased damage, which is only 30%, and Deathly Shadows increases all damage dealt by 20% for 15 seconds instead of 15 for 12. For Shamans, this is the big thing actually. Echoes of the Great Sundering now makes Earthquake do 120% more damage instead of 175, but to make up for that, they have buffed Earthquake by like 70%. So this means that this legendary is still very strong, but your damage with this legendary, basically your damage without this legendary with Earthquake is now much more respectable. You're not reliant on this to do AoE. For enhancement, Legacy of the Frost Witch causes Storm Strike to do 30% increased damage, was 15, and the debuff from Doom Winds now persists through death. Restoration, Yonat's Natural Focus now increases the next Chain Heal by 20%, was 10, and Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem now reduces the mana cost of Chain Heal and Healing Wave by 40%, was 25. This makes them cast faster. I think this is a great change. It just means that you can actually spam them out without feeling like you're running yourself despite the fact that you've just popped Mana Tide Totem. Warlock then. Malefic Wrath duration increased to 10 seconds, was 8, and damage increased per stack increased to 35, was 25. So this is, yeah, that's cool, that's cool. Wrath of Consumption duration increased to 30 seconds, was 20, and periodic damage increased to 6%, was 5%. Wrath of Consumption now properly increases the damage of Scouring Tithe. There was, yeah, I think this is a good change. This is good. Should be interesting. Like I certainly think Wrath of Consumption is really fun, where you kill mobs. It gives you this buff that can stack up and increases your damage. I think that's super fun. So I'm glad to see that buffed up. For Demonology, Implosives, Implosive Potential's haste buff increased to 12 seconds, up from 8. Much more manageable. Bale Spider's Burning Core increased the damage of Demon Vault by 15% per stack, was 8. So that's much stronger as well. Some potential synergies there with Necrolord. Grim Inquisitor's Dread Calling increased to 4% per stack, was 3%. Again, nice buff there, because you can stack that up a lot. Destruction, Madness of the Ashakir duration increased to 4 seconds, was 3. Embers of the Diabolic Raiment now properly generates 6 Soul Shard fragments when dealing critical strike with Incinerate. And a bunch of changes for arms as well. One of these is big, Reprisal, which has been slightly nerfed since it was redesigned because it's insane. But Enduring Blows chance to apply Colossus Smash increased to 25%, was 15, and the duration increased to 6%, was 5. That's good. Battlelord now triggers from Overpower, was Slam, and reduces the rage cost of your next Mortal Strike by 15, was 12. Again, I think this is really good, because you just weren't casting Slam, but you do cast Overpowers, like if you're doing Condemns instead, for example, so that's great. Exploiter's Mortal Strike damage bonus increased to 50%, and the damage bonus for Venthyr Warriors increased to 36%. Again, I think this is nice. It's just making that even more impactful. I think that's super fun. This is where for every 2 executes you do, it's going to buff the next Mortal Strike damage. So, or for every, you can stack it twice, you can stack it twice. This is a super fun thing to play around. I enjoyed its effect like in Legion, so that's great. For Fury, Cadence of Fujada duration has been increased to 12 seconds, was 8. Will of Berserker duration increased to 12 seconds, was 8. Reckless Defense now triggers from all Rampage hits instead of Rampage critical strikes. Reduce the remaining cooldown of Recklessness and Enrage regen by 1 second, was 3. So I don't know how this exactly pans out. Is that a buff or a nerf? I'm not entirely sure. You get a lot less cooldown reduction, but it triggers more often. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just more consistent. Protection then. Reprisal has been redesigned. Charge and Intervene give you shield block for 4 seconds. It gives you the proc for the free cast of Revenge, and you get 20 rage. So this is an amazing legendary. This is great. I think it was giving you 6 seconds in their initial redesign, and they're like, wait, that's insane. But still, this is amazing. You charge into a new pack of mobs, you automatically get shield block, you automatically can cast your free Revenge, and you've got rage to play with. So good. So this is phenomenal legendary. Protection Warrior, spec to watch. Unbreakable Will now also grants an additional charge of shield wall. Very cool. And Seismic Reverberation damage increase to 75%, was 40. Okay. Okay. Let's blast through some of this stuff. We still got a little bit here. Let's get through it a bit quicker, though, because this video is already super long. Let me just see if there's anything important here. I don't think there's anything too crazy. Ashran certainly has been changed quite a bit here, where you have 35 players per faction instead of 30, and you have more reinforcements. So it's still a clusterfuck, basically, as the TLD are on that one. Isle of Conquest, this is actually kind of big. Glaive Thrower health up by 40%, Commander health up by 50%, Demolisher health up 25%, Catapult health doubled, and the amount of siege damage required to break down keep walls increased by 20%. So they're really trying to change how Isle of Conquest plays and to really up the value of these vehicles. So making the vehicles much stronger, playing around those vehicles instead of, I think they want you to not play around the airship as much. That's actually a pretty big change. For Wintergrasp, these attacking team now automatically controls 2 workshops. They've also reduced the health of the the structures you can break in the base by 20%. So they're making the attackers have a much stronger start. And they're encouraging defenders to be more aggressive. If the defenders destroy towers, so those are at the bottom half of the map, it reduces match time now by 8 minutes instead of 5. So that really, really ups that effectiveness. They have also made the vehicles much weaker against players. Okay. Demolishers now consistently do more siege damage. And then after 5 minutes, all players in the battleground who do not have a rank will now be granted the rank of corporal. So all players, including players who join late, so they're going to be able to build vehicles. So basically what they're doing, they're making it much easier to attack. And then they're making being aggressive as a defender, pushing out as a defender, be more rewarding. But being this really passive, just turtle up defense is going to be a lot less effective, which is probably good. We have a bunch of changes here for PvP. I'm going to mostly skip over this. Here's a few interesting things, unless there's interesting stuff. Convoke the Spirits can no longer cast Full Moon and Feral Frenzy for Guardian Arrest or Druids engaged in combat enemy players. So just Guardian Arrest, though. Still works for the other ones. Okay. Ice Form is no longer in the global cooldown to match Icy Veins. That's nice because that would be quite annoying. Okay. Oh, so you don't get Shadow Resistance Aura anymore, but it reduces the cooldown of Aura Mastery. That's interesting. Okay. Blessing of Sacrifice lasts 6 seconds in addition to the existing effects with Ultimate Sacrifice. Okay. Alright, cool. Retribution. Ultimate Retribution apply when an ally died. Greater Fade is now cancelled when players attempt to capture a PvP objective. That's good. Greater Fade lets you just dodge all spells. Like you evade everything. Spells and attacks. So you could do that while trying to capture a PvP objective and just dodge everything for the first few seconds. That's good. Master Spell no longer cancels Greater Fade. Okay. No longer overrides Adrenaline Rush with a longer duration. That's a nice bug fix. Shadowy Duel can't be cast on targets with immunities, like Ice Block or D-Shield. Hex interrupts players if the player is susceptible to a Hex if they're trying to capture PvP objectives. Cool. Amplify Curse. Cooldown reduced to 30 seconds. Okay. Demon Armor gives you way more armor, so nice buffs. I know Warlocks were complaining about PvP, they're being quite weak, so nice buffs there for them. Fix an issue where Rapid Contagion can be used under the effects of crowd control. For Warriors, okay. War Banner would expire early if there are multiple active. Alright, cool. For the Maw, new account-wide unlock has been added to Venari that reveals teleport nodes and all the long walkable chains in Torghast, so you can quickly cross the chains and no longer have to face your fear of heights. That is hilarious. Wow, okay. Okay, so you can buy an unlock to just teleport across the chains. It's more of a time-saving thing than anything, but that was always I kind of thought it was fun. But yeah, just time saver. Basically for me now, I just don't go across the chains on my Torghast runs. Not because I'm scared of falling off, but because I'm like, pain in the arse running back across and back. So that's awesome. I'll definitely buy that. Reduce the health and amount of Anima Devourers required for stage 1 of the Winged Soul Eater's Hunt. Okay. For Torghast, description of each wing available before embarking on any given Torghast run. Better increase your odds of success. Recommended item level will be displayed. Okay. And reduce the amount of enemies on multiple floors. Oh, that's good. Get through it quicker. Great. And then they've added a bunch of new powers here. I won't go through these all. There is too many, but there's new stuff for Kyrian, for Necrolords, Night Fae, Venthyr. Death Knights have some new powers, and then they're look. There's so much stuff here. I'm not gonna go through. There's too much. There's too much. I was gonna go through everything, but there's too much, guys. There's just way too much. It's just insane. But yeah, lots of new powers, lots of rebalancing, just making Torghast more interesting, which is great. Look at all this stuff for Warrior. Crazy. So there you are. The WoW Companion app as well. Oh, we're actually at the end. You know, will we go through them all? You know what? We're so close to the end. Fuck it. We're going through them all. I don't care. We're doing it all now. I've decided. I thought we had further to go, but we are at the end. Let's do it. We're doing it. All the Torghast powers. Let's fucking go. Okay. And there's WoW Companion app stuff. Let's do it. Okay, come on. You made it this far. We can make it through. Okay, for Kyrians, Parliament Stone increases speed by 50% with 30. Also increases dodge chance by 25%. You can only get it one time, though, which is probably good. New Anima power for Necrolords. Desolate Chitin.
Fleshcraft absorbs 50% more damage. You can get that up to 3 times. Malevolent Stitching now increases your primary stat by 20%, was only 8%. It's now uncommon, was rare, can be only obtained 1 time instead of 3 times. So that's much, much better. And Musophic Femur has been removed, whatever that was. For the Night Fae, new anima power, Frigid Wild Seed. Activating Soul Shape stuns enemies within 12 yards of the departure and destination location for 6 seconds, can be attained 1 time. New anima power, Ethereal Wild Seed. Soul Shape and Flicker heal you for 20% max health, can be obtained 2 times. And Clinging Fog and Crystallized Dreams have been removed. I think they are probably similar effects, but these are a bit stronger. For Venthyr, Gnarl Key reduces Dwarf Shadow's cast time by 20%, reduces the cooldown by 6 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. So they basically made it stack twice as fast, which is great because it was stupid. Death Knight, new anima power, Entropic Pool. Dealing damage with Death and Decay increases the damage you deal to the target by 2%, and this effect stacks. New anima power, Bone Borrower. Death Grip reduces the target's damage dealt to you by 20% for 10 seconds, and animates a Risen Skulker or Magus of the Dead for 1 minute. Oh, that's really fun. Damage dealt by minions summoned by Bone Borrower and Bone Harvester have been significantly increased. Occult Emitter has been redesigned. Now increases runic power generation by 100% while affected by Anti-Magic Cell or Anti-Magic Zone. Monstrous Concoction has been redesigned. Increases the damage and attack speed for you and all your minions by 8 seconds whenever you cast Death Coil. Exterminator redesigned. Gives 2 additional max charges of Death Grip. Killing a Maw Rat resets all charges. Stacks 2 times. Combo that with the new Bone Borrower for lots of Magus of the Dead. Dark Reaver's Ward now also increases Anti-Magic Shell duration by 3 seconds. No longer increases spell damage reduction of Anti-Magic Zone. Dark Reaver's Lens now spell reflection now also applies to Anti-Magic Shell. Creeping Death. Creeping Decay now has an additional charge, no longer grants 10% damage reduction while in your Death and Decay. Cool. Death Turf now also reduces damage you take from enemies by 10% while in your Death and Decay. Unbreakable Cuffs now also increases physical and frost damage you deal to affected enemies by 15%, no longer increases the duration of Chains of Ice. Bloodstained Poker now increases sacrificial pack damage by 400%, was 300%, reduces Raised Dead's cooldown to 20 seconds, was 25 seconds. Lich Robes now reduces the cooldown of Lichborn by 4 seconds, was 10. Per 10 runic power spent was using Death Strike, stacks 2 times, 3, so you'll get much more cooldown reduction just by doing your normal rotation instead of having to use Death Strike. Force Pull has been renamed to Death Hook because we got sued by Lucas Arts. What are they called? Lucas Arts? I think so. Has an additional effect. Causes Death Grip to instead pull you to your target. Pheromones is now uncommon. Deathlord's Lesson, Deathlord's Legacy, and Animate armaments have been removed. For Demon Hunters, Soarstone now heals for 6% per second, was 3%. Shifting Signet now reduces the Metamorphosis cooldown by 30%, was 15, and it stacks 3 times, was 4, for many more Metamorphosis. Phantasmal Iris damage increased by 5%, was 1%, 5 times as good. Seeker's Rage now increases the damage of your Demon Blade, Demon Blight, and Shear by 2% per stack, was 20% when destroying an Ashen Phylactery, and the effect is no longer consumed when casting it. Oh, so it just stacks, and you can just refresh it. Okay, great, and it doesn't get consumed, great. Rage Hoof now reduces the cooldown of Metamorphosis by 6 seconds when killing a Maw Rat. Fury Wing no longer deals damage to you if Fell Rush or Infernal Strike fail to deal damage. Sacrificial Soul Ash now properly increases the damage of Elysian Decree. For Druids, nothing. For Hunters, Bag of Maw Rat Eyes can no longer be overwritten by a shorter duration self-cast Bestial Wrath. Fixed an issue that caused Fogged Crystal and Amplifying Mirror to sometimes remain active once Misdirection has expired. For Mages, we've got lots of... Oh my lord. New Anima Power, Gravity Dynamo, knocking, rooting, incapacitating enemies grants you 50% extra damage to fire, arcane, and frost spells for 8 seconds. New power, Chronomancer's Hourglass. During altar time, you and your mirror images gain time warp. Ooh. New anima power, Sorcerer's Frozen Soul. Ice Block has no cooldown. New anima power, Incanter's Ward. Uncommon, damage absorbed by your barriers grants up to 20% increased intellect based on the amount absorbed. New power, Eldritch Teachings. Pyroblast, Flurry, Arcane Barrage damage increased by 25%. This stuff seems great because as far as I know, Torghast was kind of shit on Mage. Now it seems a lot more fun. Dimensional Blade now refreshes your blink cooldown when blinking through an enemy. Blinking through Maw Rats will kill them instantly. Okay. Sapphire Prism now summons 2 additional mirror images per stack and is now common. Creeping Freeze now functions without Everwarm Socks, can be acquired at any time. Lingering Torments increases the damage of Mirror of Torments by 25%, was 10. Malevolence now causes Mirror of Torments cooldown to reset if the target dies while afflicted. And Maldo's Enchanted Cane, Polymorbid Rat Liver, Tome of Zoomancy, and Alluring Cheese have been removed. They sound like things that interacted with more rats, and fuck that. For priests, Dark Technique, new anima power. Enemies affected by Mind Bomb or Psychic Screams suffer 5% of your health and damage every 1 second. This damage cannot break Mind Bomb or Psychic Scream. You do have powers to make them last longer, so that's kind of cool. New anima power, Void Wraith Signet. Killing an enemy with Shadow of Death summons a Void Wraith Guardian for 1 minute that casts Void Flay, doing 100% additional damage against enemies that are above 50% health, so speeding up your runs. Lovely. New anima power, Soul of an Archon. Power Infusion increases all periodic damage and healing by 100%. New anima power, Cowl of Influence. You can now control your character during mind control, but it has a 30-second cooldown. Ooh, that's good. New anima power, Light Infused Egg. Smite, Mindplay have a 15 or 5% chance to grant you Power Infusion. New anima power, Fallen Priest Blessing, casting Holy Fire or Mind Blast increases the damage or healing of your next Devouring Plague by 30%, Penance by 30%, or Chastise by 60%. This effect stacks, but the duration is not refreshed. Enduring Spirit spell duration increased by 80% was 50%. Puppet Master Strings can no longer be offered to the player unless Cowl of Influence is known, which is the new thing. Excellent. This lets you, I don't know, do mind control stuff. Earworm chance to trigger increased to 5% per stack was 3%. It's still pretty bad. Mindmancer's Hand Gloves now increases the damage of mind games by 20%. Was reduced cast speed. Ooh. Vandal's Zeal can now be obtained 3 times. Psychic Wallet, Soul Sapper, Art of Phantasmal Healing have been removed. Cathar Stick now properly triggers from Shadowwood Pain cast by Vampiric Touch through the Shadow Talent Misery. This means you can't just stack it up and then cast Shadowwood Pain with a fully stacked Cathar Stick. Fair enough. For Rogues, fix an issue. Wow, there's very little for Rogues. I thought there'd be more. Nothing really. Shamans, new anima power, Depleted Tesla Coil. Gain the effect of Stormkeeper every 15 seconds. New anima power, Pure Elemental Core, increases the duration of your Fire Elemental or Storm Elemental by 50% for Elemental, increases the duration of Feral Spirits by 100% for Enhancement. When you drop Spirit Link Totem, immediately heal all allies for 15% of their maximum health and harm all enemies in the radius for 15% of their maximum health for Restoration, stacks up to 2 times. New anima power, Bottle of Swirling Maelstrom, increases Earthquake, Earthshock damage for Elemental, Maelstrom Weapon, damage bonus and healing for Enhancement, periodically deals nature damage to enemies inside your healing range for Restoration, stacked up to 3 times. Storm Conduit now increases nature and frost damage by 50%. Tsunami Relic increases healing done by 50%. Blood of Heroes now also causes your first bloodless heroism to repel to not incur its cooldown and is now rarity. Deathseeker Choker. Damage and healing per totem increased by 10%. Heart of the Deathseeker being redesigned. Chain Lightning hits 3 additional targets. Damage increases by 20% per jump for Ellie and Resto. Lava Lash now spreads Flame Shock to 5 nearby targets. Ooh, Lava Lash damage increased by 500% for Enhancement Shaman. Ghost Bone and Shield of Spirits have been removed. Warlock. Detonation Torch has been redesigned. Increase Shadow Bolt, Drain Soul, Demonic Core. Incinerate damage by 75% per stack. Stacks 3 times. Inferno Skewers has been redesigned. Increases the damage of Sea Corruption, Implosion, Rain of Fire by 75%. Stacks 4 times. Pact of Thickness increases Summon Demon's health and damage by 50%. Smoking Shard of Teleportation buff increased at 15 seconds. Bottle's Shadow duration increased to 30 seconds. Visage of Lethality has been redesigned. When you're struck in melee by an auto attack, you fear all nearby enemies for 8 seconds. It can happen once every 45 seconds. Hellfire Pact, Crystal of Perpetual Displacement have been removed. For the Warrior, Glory of Skyhold, Heroic Leap gives 2 additional charges. Oh. New power, Blade of the Tidescorn. You yell a demoralizing shout or a piercing howl when you land your heroic leap. Can be obtained 1 time. Repulsive Pennant now deals damage to all enemies within 15 yards of you every 3 seconds while Conqueror's Banner is active. Can be obtained 2 times. New anima power, Weathered Runestone. Berserker Rage increases the damage of Overpower. Raging Blow, Revenge by 40%, obtained 3 times. Thorium Hairpin. Whirlwind generates 10 rage for arms protection and generates 4 additional rage for fury. Can be attained 3 times. New power, Garlgamar's Shattered Hand. Victory Rush reduced the remaining cooldown for Heroic Leap by 10 seconds, obtained 3 times. New anima power, Ancient Rubble. Heroic Leap shatters the ground where you land, dealing physical damage over 10 seconds to enemies within 16 yards. Can be attained 4 times. Brawler's Blast Knuckles increases rage regen by 25% by 20. Was 20. Can be attained 4 times. We're almost there. Oh my god. Edge of Hatred increases the damage of Rampage. Mortal Strike shields hand by 25%. Can be attained 4 times. Fan of Longswords chance to cast Whirlwind increases to 100%. Can be attained 1 time. Succulent Carpaccio now reduces the cooldown of Ignore Pain by 3 seconds. Unchanged for protection. Voracious Culling Blade increases times. Venthyr damaged by 50%. Wasn't it's been nerfed. Smoldering inertia damage increased to 100% nerfed. Duration increased to 6 seconds was 4. Spattered souls. Rage mode champions decree have been removed. Guys, that have been the patch notes. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here. I'm gonna get a drink. Goodbye.